Hello, Internet. It is like 3 in the morning, and I'm in my sunroom right now. And I'm thinking about starting a YouTube series, like kind of like a docu series, not to like steal the term from Oprah, but like kind of like a diary, like an online diary, um, like an eating disorder diary, um, to like talk about my journey, my experiences with having eating disorder. So I guess this will be like the intro video to that. Um, Maybe it's a little low quality, but I want it to be really real. I don't want it to be too produced. Okay. So to start off, I have an eating disorder, obviously. I have binge eating disorder. I've had it for about 6 years. Um, and it's really become woven into the fabric that is my life. I saw a quote somewhere that said like eating disorder is your best friend, and I think that's so true. Like it becomes like such a source of comfort, and you feel like you can always like go to that, and it's so easy to rely on it for stability. I definitely use binge eating as a coping mechanism emotionally. It's how I've kind of learned to cope with emotions. Um, and it's all emotions. It's like when I'm sad, I eat to make myself feel, or binge to make myself feel better. When I'm happy, I binge to celebrate. When I'm angry, I binge to kind of mellow and chill out. Like all different emotions I find a way to like put binging in there to like help me process and cope. So it's something I developed, especially the coping mechanism aspect of my eating disorder, because when I was like 13, I was going through a lot of really difficult challenges. And I was dealing for the first time with a lot of really difficult emotions, and I felt really alone and isolated for the first time in my life, and I felt like I had so much going on that I couldn't talk about to anyone. So that was kind of how I learned to deal with it, because obviously when you have a lot of stress, you have a lot of anxiety, you have to find a way to release that. You have to find an outlet, right? And there's obviously healthy outlets and there's unhealthy outlets. Eating disorder would be an unhealthy outlet. Um, but because I didn't have any guidance, and I didn't have the emotional language at that point to like say like I am feeling, you know like I'm dealing with difficult emotions and I can't talk to people about these things, and whatever. I wasn't that cognizant at 13 years old. So I started to binge eat as a way to feel better and to escape, from things in my life. And it really continued ever since, and it only got worse as time went on, because it became an everyday thing, and it still is. I haven't broken the habit yet, and it's so weird because it becomes a part of even how you think. Like with me in particular, my binge eating is usually like I starve myself, quote unquote, or don't eat a lot. Not necessarily I don't eat anything, but I don't eat a lot of food like throughout the day. Like probably the first 10, 12 hours of the day, I don't really eat much. And then it's, the last like 4, 6 hours that I really go crazy. And, I'll just eat a whole day's worth of food in a very short time span. And I'm so hungry because I've been starving myself all day. I haven't been eating enough, so my body wants food, and then I just go crazy. And that's usually how it happens. um so yeah, and it's become a part of my appetite, because it's hard for me to even really decipher when I am hungry. Like I know when I'm like starving, like when I'm so famished, but like just like hungry, it's hard for me to really detect that, because I've made my appetite and my eating habits like on this schedule of like not eating a lot during most of the day. And then the last, 20% of the day, I eat everything. So my body doesn't like understand like the balance. And so it's hard for me to like reinforce it in myself, if that makes sense. Like, I can look at it on paper and say, okay, I should be eating 3 meals a day, 2 snacks, eating every, maybe 4 or 5 hours, whatever. It's easy for me to like look at that on paper and understand that. But to actually do it and implement it is such a different story, and so hard. Um, and it's something that takes, I know, a lot of time. Probably take me years to actually really get to a place where my eating disorder isn't a part of my reality. Um, at least my like immediate reality every day. But, it took me a long time to get to this place with my eating disorder, and it'll take me a long time to get out of it. So, yeah, but I am doing better. I started recovery in January of this year, and I've just been doing really well with that. I have been able to recognize my binge eating, which is a huge thing because I used to disassociate so much. Sometimes I didn't even know it was happening until it was over. Um, as I think anyone with binge eating disorder can tell you, sometimes it's like you're not in your body and you're kind of like watching it happen, and then it's like afterward you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? So it can be a very out of body experience. And I started noticing it though, like every time, and I would notice like even like when I wanted to binge, and like the cues and like what was like kind of leading me to want to. So I developed an awareness really early on in recovery, and then I what was I gonna say? Let's see, recovery. Sorry, it's 3:30 in the morning. This is what happens. So, oh, and one of the things that led me to even understanding that I had an eating disorder was the fact that I had gained a lot of weight. Um, During the fall semester, I gained like 20 pounds in a really short amount of time, like really short. And I didn't realize it. I didn't know. It was only when I went to the doctor and got weighed that it like hit me that, oh my gosh. And I hit a number that was like really difficult for me to hit. Like it was like the number I would never reach, if that makes sense. Like in my mind I would never reach that number, and then I reached it and I wasn't even mentally prepared for it. So it was really hard. And it was really hard on myself, and I felt like, I've got to start dieting, I've got to start exercising. Like I felt like so panicked. And that was one of the things that made me realize, like, I think there's a problem. And I was gaining weight. I've been gaining weight really for a long time. Like, like when I was 13, um, I was like 120, 130 pounds. And I've been about the same height ever since then because I went through puberty, I guess at a normal age, like 12, 13. And ever since I've kind of been the same height, I've had my period, developed breasts, all that stuff. So I've kind of been like at the same point physically since then. Um, but I've gained like 70 pounds in that amount of time. And I've yo-yoed a little bit, but not too much. So when I I just really looked, and I looked at how much weight I gained, and um it was shocking. And I really just for the first time could understand how this was such a big problem. Um, and I'm really proud that this semester I did not gain any weight. I did not gain any weight. Really, even since I went to the doctor that one time and was weighed, which was like October, I haven't gained weight. So that's like 7 months of no weight gain, which for me is a huge accomplishment. Like, I've been gaining weight forever. Like, I felt like I would breathe and I would gain weight. Like, I've always been gaining weight, and like finally now I think I've actually managed to stop. Um, and that's huge, you know. Um, and I'm very proud of that because I think that shows that I've gotten a lot better. And my binging hasn't been as bad. It hasn't been as much, but it hasn't. When I binge, I don't like eat as much as I used to, which is good. So, you know, that's something. And in terms of weight loss, I haven't really like mentally, I guess, thought about that yet. It's hard, especially with an eating disorder, to think about losing weight and, just all of the chaos and how that could recreate my eating disorder again and make it worse. So I'm not thinking about weight loss at all. I can't really for my own health. I can't think about losing weight. So right now, I'm like, if I lose weight, I lose weight, but I'd really like to just maintain my weight. Like I said, 7 months. That's a lot for me, and I want to keep going with keeping the weight I am at now. Um, and I think, if I lose weight, I lose weight. It's not going to be something for me that makes or breaks my life, my recovery, anything, because it doesn't really matter, what I weigh. It doesn't really matter. And lately, another thing is I've really discovered that I look good. Like, I am a beautiful girl. Like, I almost think I had a little body dysmorphia going on because, like, literally for the last couple weeks, I've been looking in the mirror and it's like I'm seeing a whole other person. Like, I didn't realize I had an hourglass figure. I didn't realize that, like, my tummy was like so cute and soft, and like there's just so many things I just saw like fat, and that was it for so long. And it's like, wow, I'm like, wow, I'm not even really that fat. Not that there's anything wrong with being fat. I'm fat positive. I love fat acceptance, but like, in my head I was so much fatter than I am in real life. And I was just like, whoa, like I am actually pretty. Like I have a really good body, I don't need to lose any weight. I don't need to. If I never lose a pound, that's okay with me, finally. Um, you know, and not obsessing over it anymore. And, you know, it, I think too, almost my weight gain it sort of represents my journey to me in a sense of, I don't know, like, this is where I ended up, and I'm probably not going to ever get back to like where I started, which is like 130, but just like seeing it as like this was part of, my eating disorder was gaining a lot of weight. And that's okay. Like that's not a bad thing necessarily. And it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't mean all of these, negative things. And I used to think for so long that it was just self control and that I just needed to, control my eating, control my exercising. I was lazy, whatever. I didn't understand that like eating disorder, you're not in control. It's a psychosis, Like this is something mentally where like I can't, I'm not thinking about food and behaving with food in the way a normal person would, you know. I have a psychosis with eating, So it's not my fault, It's not like I just can't stop eating or don't want to stop eating. You know what I mean? So it's part of my eating, it's part of this, And the when I've accepted that, it's become so much easier for me to really accept myself and love myself and not get caught up in fat shaming myself. So, okay, that's been pretty long, but I do want to continue this, and I hope to see you next video.